we get into the elevator, and we're all just kind of laughing, joking. And out the corner of my eye, I kind of see the elevator sink a little bit, where you can see like the floor below us. And before I could say, hey, something's wrong, the door slams shut and you hear all the cables snap.
We hear this loud bang. And he looks over at me and he was like, hey, you got to get your kids under control. Like, they sound like they're in there cutting up. And it did. It sounded like someone was laughing. But then we just hear another bang. And all you can hear are screams. And so I just look at Chelsie and grab her hand, and we just start running 7 flights of stairs down.
The whole time I'm laying there, I'm like, God, please don't let me be unconscious. I don't think my husband has all my medical information.
So you're thinking, I don't want to die.
I don't want to die. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was terrifying, but there was also, like, we know the presence of God was in that place.
Yeah. We are living in a miracle right now. There should be people dead, and we are bringing every single one of you to the hospital. Honestly, the injuries, Krystal's was the worst, but it was just fractures, bruises, like minor concussions. Like, you can't deny that God wasn't with us.
Yeah. I don't know the 100% the why, but all I know is that this is not over. What he wants to do with it is not over.
Well, welcome to the Seacoast podcast. As usual,
we didn't get in trouble.
We did. We're good.
As usual, we often have conversations before we hit record and after we hit the record that you guys would probably like to hear, but our leaders wouldn't necessarily want it out now. And
I'd love to have a coffee.
I would love to keep my job.
Bills be billing.
I mean,
They do always come. Man.
Part of that is, I think, for our listeners, because I'm going to keep what I just said in, there are certain forms of conversation that you do keep with friends. Like the four of us trust each other and we're friends. So I can even say something that would be offensive to everybody, to a huge sect of people, and maybe even Lynne too, but we're sitting right here.
Right.
You like me as a person and know my heart and can speak up and say, that's kind of messed up that you would say that. Like, so I do think, although we strive for real open conversations on this podcast, there are certain conversations that
are meant to be.
You just ain't gonna get
time. Trust has been built. There's so much behind that.
Love is there.
Yeah.
That's good.
On both ends.
But listeners are going to hear about calling customer service lines and getting someone where you can't understand.
Oh, Lord.
Here's my opinion. If you think that people who speak better English need to be the ones answering the phone if you have something that you need to take care of over the phone, it does not give you... You like how I said that?
Boy, you trying not to get fired so bad.
Listen. It does not give you any excuse not to set out in love. Like that is... So I found myself in a situation this Friday where I'm trying to get a lot of stuff done. So I understand the frustration of, man, I'm trying to get stuff done. It took me 5 minutes to even be able to speak to some person, and now I can't really understand them. But here's what I had to do in this situation. I treated him and spoke to him with the utmost respect. I didn't let myself get personally frustrated that I couldn't understand, but there was one time where I had to say, I don't know what you just said. Can you say that again? And it was completely polite and courteous, and he responded completely polite. Oh, yes, sir. Said it again. Y'all, at the end of the conversation, and the whole time, I am not showing any sort of frustration, but I had to ask, a handful of times, I don't know what you just said. Do you mind repeating that? When we were finished, I said, I think I know the information that you told me, but I'm not sure. Can you send it to me in an email? And he didn't bat an eye. He said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. Basically, if you're not sure, if you understand, then I will put it in an email. But I'm just going to ask y'all 2 questions. So y'all can be thinking about them. Whoever goes first, the other 2 can be thinking about them. Is it hard not to get frustrated? What'd you say?
I said T goes.
T goes
I can
first.
go first. This is not going to be a problem at all.
Is it hard not to get frustrated? And the second question, are you at least happy when someone is easy to understand? I would say for me, sometimes it's hard not to get frustrated because, first of all, I don't even want to call those numbers because it's hard to speak to a human. And second of all, they're usually frustrating conversations, even if you can understand the person. So if you can't understand the person, yeah, it can be frustrating. And I want to set out and treat that person with love and respect regardless. But am I happy when someone answers and I can hear them and understand them clearly? Of course. I'm like, okay, this is going to be easier.
I mean, of course, everyone's happy when they can get somebody that they can understand. But I could care less. Have you met my mother-in-law? She can't speak English right now unless she's talking about the Green Bay Packers. She speaks Guamanian, and like her English is god awful. She's got the English of a 4-year-old. So when I'm
So you're saying you're used to it?
I am, and I mean I just laugh it off. Next, don't believe me? Go ask my wife. Now, if you ask her that question, she would get mad.
Tell me what she speaks again?
Guamanian.
Is that half Guatemalan or Ghana?
No, she's from the island of Guam.
Guam. Duh. Nice.
Yeah,
I want to hear her talk. She's a Packer fan?
Oh, she got great English when it comes to football and the Green Bay Packers.
So selective English.
She just lights up talking about Brett Favre.
Oh, Brett Favre might as well be Jesus.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, no. I could call her right now.
She does not need to watch the Brett Favre documentary that came out on Netflix. I'll put it that much.
She does not.
I love me some
She can
Packers.
tell you everything about Jordan Love, everything about everything when it comes to the Packers.
Yeah. Tell her that you podcast with a huge Packer fan.
I'll do it.
Yeah, heck yeah. All right.
I'll be honest, I avoid.
Lynn's going to totally avoid this question.
No,
She's
I
looking
avoid
at Abbie right now.
if I have to call like any. I just avoid those kind of phone calls.
But sometimes you have to.
Well, there's always a way around it. Go online, find
That little chat
email. You know what? That chat with me right now, I know it's not a real person, but that is a great feature most of the time.
Yeah.
Occasionally I'm like, I've literally told you, and then you're telling me, and it's not what I need. But I really avoid, because I actually don't have patience when it comes to that. And I am not proud of the person that I become when I'm frustrated. So I just try and avoid.
Yeah. You can be vulnerable with us. What's the worst thing you've ever said to somebody on the phone?
I don't say anything. I just hang up. There have been times when I'm like, I've tried to be like calm and gentle, because I am married to the calmest person in the world. It doesn't make sense to me how he stays so even all the time. And I've listened to him do those kind of calls, and I'm like, how did you were so kind and calm, and you got through it. And he's like, what? I'm like, I just get frustrated and hang up. I have to start over.
Oh, the
or just
worst.
go to find an email.
The worst is when you've navigated so much, like to talk to the right person, and you've gotten down the field a little bit with what you needed to talk about, and you're disconnected. But I've had someone hang up on me, which I'm like, I hope they
like
got
the
in
other
trouble.
side.
Yes.
Don't they always give you the prompter of like, this call's being recorded for training purposes?
That's what I'm saying. Is I hope they got in trouble. All right, Lynn.
Wow, they probably didn't. I used to work in a call center. They didn't get in trouble.
But I do appreciate
You didn't get in trouble for hanging up?
They did not get in trouble. How are you? Yeah, no.
I do really appreciate a good conversation though when they're helpful. I had to talk to someone at the IRS. She was so kind.
Oh, I can make friends with these people.
She
on the
was
phone.
so kind, and I did have to ask her a few times to repeat herself, but she was so kind, and I was like, all right, I can hang.
Yeah.
It's only happened once, so.
I, like T says, when it's easy, everybody wants it to be easy. So would I prefer to have a conversation with someone who understands that I can understand? Yes, because if I'm calling and waiting in line and I had to go through this bot to get to you, something's already wrong, right? But I prefer to just do the little chat thing, and you can tell when the chat switches over to a human.
Mm-hmm.
And that is
the
just
responses
really
take a little longer.
Yeah, that just is easier because you can just leave the chat open. I prefer not to have to talk to a human if possible. because it does stretch my ability to
Have patience.
That's a growth opportunity for me.
Yeah. All right. Are y'all all aware of what happened on this missions trip, I think in January?
Mm-hmm.
So we have Pastors Bryan and Chelsie Hill, and then most importantly, Krystal Flowers, just because she's the one who got immensely injured. And it is quite the story. I just could not imagine having a major medical condition in a developing country where, we're used to American hospitals. And so it's, I hate to say entertaining, but it's also very uplifting to see her faith resolve and where she's at right now in her faith, because, it's something that'll impact her for the rest of her life. I did want to touch bases with you all and ask y'all, how do y'all frame things up theologically when it comes to bad things happening? So I cheated because I knew I was going to ask this, and this is decades of being a Christian. I say it's a sucky world in which tons of bad stuff happen, a lot of times from people's bad decisions. It will all eventually be redeemed by God, and in the meantime, God is working to bring about good to further his kingdom, and sometimes he intervenes and stops the bad stuff. And that's all I know.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
What do y'all think about words like allows or causes?
We don't know because his ways are higher than ours.
Boom, that's Isaiah right there.
It is. The scripture actually says that everything is sifted through his hands. So anything that happens, he has allowed it to.
Yeah, there's no, either that or he's not all powerful.
Right. So you just have to decide what you truly believe. So anything that's happened has been allowed to happen. Even when you think about Job and Satan, he allowed Satan to test Job. Mm-hmm. He tested him through that. So, and to say that he causes, we just don't know. And that gets murky because you're like, why would he cause this horrible things? But we don't know. We just don't have the picture. Our God is not evil. So I don't think he does evil things, but I think if we scaled out and we had his view, we would see more than we do. So I don't use causes because I don't know, and I don't know something that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously we know that God allows certain things to happen, but I could get behind God causes some things to happen too. Not necessarily like death or anything like that, but I think of David, and God had David serve under Saul, who was a terrible king. And the only reason I know this is because I read a book called A Tale of Three Kings.
I've read that.
Oof.
And it talks about how David's life was changed because he had to work under Saul. So God can see the Saul in us and place Saul in our life to the point to where we don't want it. Like I think about my own life. Like I am the anti-Tommy Wallace. I am everything that he was not. I don't know how I would have turned out if I had had a great dad who whatever. Maybe I would have neglected my kids more. Maybe I would have not been as present. I don't know. But I know that when I was going through it, it was traumatic. I questioned God on the why. Because, he knew that I was going to be made from this person, but I can now see the good that came from it.
Yeah. And I think one thing we don't stop and think about when it comes to this discussion is if you want God to stop bad things from happening, where do you draw the line, and what kind of a world would this be if he stopped every single bad thing from happening. We're talking every second something would have to be intervened upon.
And we wouldn't have, no one would have free will.
Exactly.
And I even think about like the Israelites going into captivity, right? It's like, he's like, I'm going to use Babylon and Syria to take you into captivity because you've turned your back from me. Yeah. So you don't want to serve me. Now you're going to see what it's like to serve them. But then he executes judgment on Babylon and Assyria because he's like, I used you as my instrument and you took it too far, you know? And so it's like, he actually said, you're going to go into captivity. There's nothing good about being in captivity. That a war is coming. There's nothing good about that, but he caused it. But then they took it too far and he's like, no, you shouldn't be, you were ruthless and cruel.
Yeah.
So you just have to wrestle with it. Like there are some hard things. Like you imagine what that was like, being under siege and like being taken into captivity. Like that's hard, and he caused it.
Yeah.
So
I think we have to really grapple with the depths of darkness and evil and bad things that happen in this world. And I've heard a teacher say it this way, that if, we believe in a coming kingdom, a coming hope, a coming redemption, if that wasn't in God's plan, then we could doubt his goodness or his power. We'd be like, okay, what kind of a God are you? Like you are allowing all this to happen forever? Like things are just going to keep happening, and that's our faith that God is all powerful, is all good and all loving, and that there will be a day when, I just walking in a Holocaust museum and reading this sorts of stuff, for instance, I really remember being like, God, how could you allow that to happen to little babies? Like that's painful. Those babies felt that kind of pain. And I think it's okay to say, even as a person with faith, God, these are tough ones for me. On this side of heaven, I don't get it. I don't get it. All right. Well, big shout out to Krystal for sharing her story, and thank you to Bryan and Chelsie Hill for joining us, and they are coming up right now. All right, well, welcome to the Seacoast podcast, everyone. We are here with some new faces, not new to Seacoast, but new to the podcast. So we'll start. First of all, we have Lynne Stroy. If you're listening, those of you watching on YouTube, you see Lynn. But if you're just listening, we have Lynne Stroy, myself, Joey Svendsen, and then we have Krystal Flowers. Good to have you, Krystal.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And then Bryan and Chelsie Hill, and you guys pastor the Cane Bay campus, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Nice. Well, good having y'all, too.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. So how long have y'all been at Seacoast?
We've been at Seacoast for almost 8 years next month.
8 years. And then how long have y'all been leading the Cane Bay campus?
2 years and just a few weeks.
Yeah.
Nice. How long have you been coming to Seacoast?
About 8 years.
8 years. Yeah. And so have you been in the Somerville world the whole time?
Yeah. And then I went over to Cane Bay when we launched, and then came on staff last year.
Gotcha. I want to join the fun. I've been here I've been on staff for 20 years, and then been coming to Seacoast for about 23 years. Lynn?
Wow. 16 at Seacoast, 13 on staff.
Nice.
Putting up some numbers here.
Yeah. Gabe DeWalk on staff here one Sunday. He was like, let's see how many people we can name who've been here longer than Joey. And we really had to rack our brains. Well, anyway, you guys went on a missions trip, and Krystal, you got hurt. That's an understatement. We're going to get to that story in a bit, but I want to ask kind of some preliminary questions, and then, like I said, I want to take a deep dive into mainly what you experienced, but you guys experienced it as well as leaders and as two people who love her dearly. Krystal, did you struggle with anything along the lines, and again, we'll let our listeners know what happened here in a second, with, Lord, I just wanted to serve you. Why'd you let something like this happen? I mean, you're going on a missions trip, and where was the missions trip? When was it?
We went to Honduras. January 7th.
It's
a day that will ever be.
Never forget.
It's like Pearl Harbor for me. It'll be a day that always lives in infamy.
And what kind of missions trip was it?
It was a married missions trip, so my husband was there. It was, 7, 8 couples?
7 couples.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Like, was it construction, medical?
evangelical.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, I didn't question God. It was one of those things we were going through the Bible, year in the Bible, and it started off with Job, and I was like, wow, that's a tough book to start off the year with. But there was a part in Job where it's towards the end, and Job's kind of talking to God, and he's like, I'm like, what happened, God? And I was like, were you there when I created the cosmos, like in the heavens and the earth? And to me, I interpret that as like, I am all knowing, all powerful. I don't need you to question me because I know what I'm doing. And like, stay in your created place, not your creator place. Because
stay in your lane.
Yeah, stay in your lane. That's the way God speaks to me. And so when I got injured, my first thought was, okay, Lord, there's something going on. If this is the vehicle that you choose to work your glory, I can't complain. I want to complain, but I can't complain because I prayed so much for me to be used as a vessel. And granted, this was not like what I envisioned, but if that's the way he chooses it, then that's the way he chooses it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like to, because I was raised in what I think is somewhat of an unhealthy religious upbringing, not necessarily my parents, just the churches that I was in. And I used to read that, where were you when I created, almost like a condemning, how dare you question me? But I would imagine, especially with what you've gone through, it's more of a comforting, hey, just trust me. You can't know things. I love you.
Yeah.
And where were you?
Let me take the burden off of you because I can shoulder it. And so that's where it came from. There was so much peace during that time.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys before we get into the story, when you look back on your ministry journey up until this point, and for years to come, I would imagine my guess would be that this will be a core experience, one of them that will have shaped your leadership, just like a molding experience. Am I onto something?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that sometimes we envision what would it look like to lead through a crisis. You don't really know until you're in a crisis. And we hadn't really faced one until this point.
Yeah. But at the same time, I remember when we were in the ER, and I mean, everybody there spoke Spanish, so we were we were the fish out of water. We were with, translators, so we were with people that we knew. But I remember grabbing Brian at one point and just saying, how are you? And he said, I'm okay. And the Lord spoke to me. I said, Brian, God prepared us for such a time as this. And what an honor it is for us to get to shepherd and care for these people who are hurting. Like, I can't believe God put us here. And it's just because of some of the own pain we've experienced in our life, from Brian's mom passing away right after we moved to Seacoast, tragically in our home. And then a few years later, almost losing our 21-day-old son to cardiac arrest. God healed him. It was a fight for his life, but we've experienced some crazy trauma and suffering. And, we really do believe, because we lived it, God redeems and brings all things for good, for his glory, for our good. And all of that prepared us for that moment to be able to care and shepherd, like, our team, elders from our church, people from our small group who were in pain and shock. And it was like we were ready. And I'm so grateful that God allowed us and entrusted us to do it.
Yeah. All right. So I'm about to ask you to kind of lead the way with telling the story, but it can be a collaborative effort as well. My guess would be, and I'm just guessing here, that the shock hasn't worn off, that it's still kind of like did this really happen sort of thing? Or has it worn off?
It has worn off.
Good.
I mean, just kind of the healing process makes that kind of like disappear because like you have to be in it. I think what doesn't wear off is the miracle I'm here. And then just continuously seeing God not only work in my family, my life, but then the ripple effect of everyone else. And that's what kind of is the shock and all of that. Like, we're sitting here almost 8 months later, and there's just still things that God's revealing and doing. And that's the part that I will never stop being inspired about.
Yeah. So let me give you guys permission, if it's okay with you, as you tell the story, for them to interject and fill in some gaps and
there's some blank spots.
I would imagine.
that I can't fill in.
So you guys arrived in Honduras on January the 7th?
Yes, we did. So it's one of those fun things. Like if you do mission right, it feels like in the beginning, like it's a group of friends going on a trip. And so like you're just super pumped, like the Holy Spirit's there. And we have a very funny crew. And so there's laughter and jokes and we're just excited to be on mission. And so we're, everything goes smoothly. We literally debrief and we're like, all right, we're getting ready to head to a prison tomorrow. And I'm like, yes, I love prison. Something happens in prison that like sets you free, sets them free. It's just where God moves. Mm-hmm. And
you don't like being, you've never been.
I've never been officially.
I love prison.
It is. It actually is really good in prison.
In Honduras, in which Krystal had been there twice before.
Yeah.
And this hotel that we were at, we have stayed in there twice before as well.
Really?
So this wasn't like a new thing, a first time thing for her.
Gotcha.
So I was like super excited because my husband's on mission trip. This was his first mission trip. And I was like, it's going to be amazing, honey. Wait till you see what God does. And so like we're debriefing. We're like, I'm ready to go eat some Honduran food. Like, I'm a fat kid at heart. I love food. And so I was like, yes, we're going to eat at the hotel. I'm ready for some tortillas, some beans, and whatever meat they have available.
Oh, man,
I'm ready. And so we know with this hotel that the elevators close pretty quickly. We're like, okay, it's a running joke. You better get in or you're going to miss it. So, 7 of us, including myself, pile in. And that's unusual, 8 people in the elevator, right?
And does the hotel for folks who are mostly used to American culture, if they were to walk into this hotel, would they be like, oh, we're in a developing country, or from the bird?
No, it's like your regular 3-star hotel kind of deal.
All right.
And so we get into the elevator and we're all just kind of laughing, joking. And out the corner of my eye, I kind of see the elevator sink a little bit where you can see like the floor below us. And before I could say, hey, something's wrong, the door slams shut and you hear all the cables snap. So Tower of Terror. Like if you've ever been on it, that's pretty close to what happened. And then we're just rocketing down 7 floors. And the way that this hotel is built is that if you're driving, you park underneath the hotel and you can take the elevator up into the hotel. So we hit the garage, we hit street level, and we hit the bottom of the hotel. And it was definitely, I knew immediately my leg was broken because I went from standing to being on the ground. And sorry if anyone's squeamish, but I could feel like my bones moving in my leg. And I was like, yeah, I definitely broke something. And
were you in pain, or the shock kind of
no
kept you
pain
from that at this point?
I now understand when in the book of Daniel where they talk about the 4th man in the fire and the peace, I understand that from a very personal level. It was calm and serene, and I knew God was there. And I immediately knew this was not a ploy of the enemy. This was God's plan. Like I had so much peace. And so immediately, being the person I am, I'm like, I got to get people out. I got to get people to safety. Because, like, I don't know what else is coming down from the elevator shaft. And so...
Are they all strangers in the elevator?
Oh, no. These are all people. These are our elders. Yeah, this is the whole team.
I probably missed that.
And so...
Were you guys...
We weren't.
No, I mean, so we were on the roof. That's where we had our meeting that night. And we were getting ready to go downstairs. And it was us, and then there were 6 others, and then including our mission partner who was leading us. And we always take the stairs no matter where we go.
I'll be doing that for the rest of my life.
I mean, it's like
that's one of my questions. You already answered it now.
Right. But we like to get our steps in, right? So we were going to do that anyways. And they get on the elevator, the doors close, and we're talking to the mission partner as we're walking, and we hear this loud bang, and he looks over at me and he was like, "Hey, you got to get your kids under control. Like." They sound like they're in there cutting up. And it did. It sounded like someone was laughing.
Oh, my gosh.
But then we just hear another bang. And all you can hear are screams. And so I just look at Chelsie and grab her hand. And we just start running 7 flights of stairs down. And it's that moment of you don't know what you're going to find. And I remember us getting down to the bottom and you just see dust kind of like settling. And the doors of the elevator at that time had been pried open. And it's dark and you can hear people screaming.
And at this point, you don't know it's part of your team.
Well, we knew.
We knew they were on the elevator.
But we didn't know what we were
But we didn't know what we were
Gotcha.
going to find.
Okay.
And you're processing things, as it's happening. Am I going to find someone who's not alive? Am I going to, what's our next step going to be? And I just remember seeing Krystal laying on the floor. By that point, she was like half in the elevator and half out. And we didn't know at that time, is there, more to the hotel? Like, could the elevator go down further? And so I remember just like diving in the floor and grabbing her hands and just talking to her through. And then we had somebody in the back that was just helping, and we were just scooting because the last thing we wanted was half in, half out of the elevator and there be another floor below. I mean, we didn't know we were in the basement.
So I think I'm the slowest person in this room right now because I'm trying to wrap my head around. Were you not able to gently pull her completely out of it?
No, because even parts of the elevator were falling in, and people were screaming, and we didn't know, did somebody have something else broken? And if we pull them hard.
Gotcha.
And so it was.
So it was more caution on your part, or it was also impossible?
Well, then we didn't even know what the hip or the leg was. And the last thing we wanted was to pull and make it worse.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
in other words, y'all were smarter than what I would have been.
We were trying our best given the circumstances we found ourselves in.
We were, and this is so God. One of the translators who with our missions partners team, he actually went to medical school and was a doctor and decided to leave medical practice to be a part of the ministry. And so I thank God Josue was there because he helped us. He'd be like, okay, let's be careful. Like, he talked us through until, the paramedics came on how to help everyone because
one by one, you're trying to assess people. One was holding an arm. One couldn't move her leg. But we're trying to get them out of the elevator just in case anything else was to fall.
Yeah.
And then the one that needed the most attention, at that time was Krystal. And I just remember, we were literally laying on the floor. Mm-hmm. I'm holding your hands and we're having this conversation to try to keep her conscious and just assess how you're doing. And it goes much deeper even than a boss employee relationship. Her family has been in our lives for 8 years now.
Yeah.
We're not just coworkers, we're friends.
Yeah.
And so not only is your employee here, and you don't even know what's wrong with her, but your friend of 8 years is there. And so you're trying to fight that too. There's things that has to be done, and we've got to look past any kind of personal things to make sure she gets the best care that she needs.
Mm-hmm. Tell me if you want to skip any questions or if you're
good.
Be quiet.
I'm an open book.
How did it feel longer than what it was, that drop?
It did. I think it felt like 30 seconds, but I guess it really wasn't in reality. And, what was the hilarious part is that I used to have really, really long nails, almost claw-like. And I had cut them down for the trip and gotten them done, but they were still pretty long. And so my first thought was, okay, my leg's broken. Let me find a call button. There's no call buttons in the elevators in Honduras. So I was like, okay, next thing. So I don't know what came over me, but I was just very polite and nice. Maybe it was just a calming effect, but I was to one of the guys, it's hey, could you try to open the doors for us? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, well, let's just give it a try. Let's see what's going on. So he got the doors open, which if anyone's ever tried to open an elevator door, they're heavy. Mm-hmm. So I had to imagine God was there giving him the strength to open the door. Yeah. And when the doors open, I see our mission partner and he's just staring at me and I'm staring at him. And he's like, is everyone okay? And I'm like, maybe. And so everyone's kind of assessing what's going on. And I'm just we need to get out this elevator. I don't know if the whole mechanism from the top is coming. We've already had the lights and all the things inside of the elevator already fall on us. And so I'm just I need to mitigate as much damage as possible. And so they're all like kind of chattering. I was like, get out the elevator. My leg is broken. They're like, oh, yeah. Let's get out. And so with Pastor Bryan, I'm dragging myself out, but I know I'm in pain, but I can't feel anything. And so I'm like, let's be gentle, because I knew that I'd broken something severely in my leg. And so I'm on the floor. And when I say that, God gave me nothing but joy, because the whole time I'm laying there, I'm like, God, please don't let me be unconscious. I don't think my husband has all my medical information. And I'm like, have I updated him on everything? I was like, please just let me stay conscious, because I need to help him. He's my husband. And he's fully capable, but it's just, as a wife, you're just like,
Sure.
I just want you to be as safe as possible. And like, surprisingly, he was the one person that walked away with not a scratch on him.
So you're thinking, I don't want to die.
I don't want to die. Yeah. So the fact that we've already hit essentially rock bottom and I didn't die, and the fact that I'm not actively bleeding out, I'm like, okay, all right, we're 2 for 2, Lord. And the ambulance is coming. And all I can do is lay there on the floor and just pray. And I can hear everyone around me. My husband's on the floor with me. Pastor Bryan's on the floor. Everyone's praying. And then the ambulance comes, and they don't put you on a stretcher. They use like these 2 like handles to like scoop me up off the floor and put me on a stretcher. And God bless the team. Their idea of an ambulance is like a Ford F-150 with a litter covered on it. And that's all you're going to get. And so one of our interpreters is in the truck with me, and I was like, thank God, because he speaks Spanish and I speak conversational Spanish at best, not medical Spanish. And there's a point where, thank God, the ambulance driver really wanted to get me to the hospital, but I was sliding around in the back of that truck. And so he like throws his body over my stretcher to kind of stabilize me. And then I don't remember anything else until I'm waking up in the ER. And so I can't tell you what happened when we arrived, because it was myself and another person who went by ambulance. I think everybody else just kind of got in cars and got there. But it was a pretty, I'm a funny person. I use humor a lot. And so as they're, assessing me, they started to cut off my good old Navy joggers, and I was really upset about that.
Don't forget the dunks.
Yeah. and my shoes. They had to jack me for my shoes.
She kept asking us, does everybody have my Nikes?
Yes.
Where are my Nikes?
Are my Nikes
The whole
present?
time we were there, please make sure they get back to the States.
I told her I sold them. So
If you couldn't tell, I love shoes and I love Nikes. And I was like, please don't leave my good Nikes behind. Make sure Dion has my Nikes.
So I don't want to die. I don't want to leave my husband, and I gotta have my Nikes.
I gotta have my Nikes to come back. I'm a size 10. It's really difficult to find good shoes. And so they were just assuring me, Krystal, we can buy you more pants. And so we're there, and Pastor Bryan comes up, and I will never forget this. He is like in tears. And like I said, we were more than coworkers. We were friends. And I could tell on his face, he is like, my friend and my employee is laying in a hospital bed right now. And there's just chaos all around me. And like, I could just see the strength in him. He's like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make this better. And I was like, thank you. But can you get me some drugs? I'm in a lot of pain now. The shock is worn off. He's like, okay, yeah.
And was that something they were readily able to supply you with in a sufficient amount that you would say? Because that's the crazy part of this story, is you're going through this in a developing country where things are completely different.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say this, like, you could go to parts of the U.S. and not get the best health care. So, like, I don't want people to warn off of going to, like, other countries and being like, well, what if something happens? But, and things happen in the U.S. all the time. Yeah. But it was more of just 14 Americans descended on their hospital in the middle of the night, and it was just chaos.
It was a scene, like, out of a movie. Because I remember showing up to the hospital, and by that point, I believe most of the people that were injured were in rooms in the ER, but you just had doctors and nurses like running in every which way. And then every single one of our team members are in different rooms. And so in the midst of chaos, speaking, very little Spanish, honestly, we are trying to get each team member the help that they need. We're trying to stay strong and make sure that they know that we're not panicking, so they don't need to panic. And we're going to each room and we're just like praying. And, there's moments where you can remember that night and you just hear the screams and you hear like the chaos that was happening. And it was terrifying, but there was also we know the presence of God was in that place.
Yeah.
And so it brought this peace. And then like Chelsie had said, the readiness of what we had been through, God uses everything. Right. And when we go through hard things, it's not only just for us. Mm-hmm. And so even when we walked through hard things years ago, the Lord was preparing us to carry the mantle of where we are now. Because if we were to carry the mantle, I believe, without experiencing any of that, then it could have crushed us. Mm-hmm. But God in his graciousness was walking with us and helping us and giving us the strength that we needed to even be able to make it through that night.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're pastoring your team through this moment, caring for them, but then also probably an advocate for their care. How do you do that how many translators do you have? And you said your team, they're in different rooms. Mm-hmm. So how do you navigate did the hospital have translators, or how did you navigate the care for your team with the translator that you had for the trip?
We had 3 translators.
Yes.
And we had 7 rooms. Mm-hmm. And so we both pulled out Google Translate. And I remember distinctly the one thing that you wanted the most was ice, aside from medication. Yes. And I was like, whatever it takes. We're going to get her ice. Thirsty. We're going to get her water. She was so thirsty. And so we're Google translating everything. And, they're trying to be as patient with us as we can. We're trying to advocate on their behalf as quickly as we can, because you don't ever want to see anyone in pain, much less the people that you're leading, right? And so we heavily leaned on to that. But then also, like I said, there was a supernatural peace there that calmed the anxiousness. Because somehow, too, at one point, we started getting calls even from parents and these are grown adults, but their parents are concerned because they're hearing things. And so people are calling us, and our number one priority was to make sure that the 7 of them were safe and taken care of. And so, yes, there were people that we had to call back. There were phone calls we couldn't answer in the moment. But we needed to take care of them, and we also wanted to communicate with leadership here at Seacoast. Mm-hmm. And so I remember, even before the ambulance arrived, calling Jody. Mm-hmm. And Jody is our missions pastor here at Seacoast. And I remember calling her, and I know she thought it was strange. And she's like, hey, how are you? And I just remember, you don't ever want to be the one to deliver bad news. But I was like, Jody, this is what's happening. And you just hear it in her voice, oh my gosh. It's those moments where we've led several mission trips, and there's always the insurance that we get, right, for being out of the country. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, you never really pay attention to it because you're like, I can get Band-Aids. It's going to be fine. Something like this happens. And then you're like, thank God that our church is prepared, that our church has gone before and looked around to foresee anything that could happen. Because if we wouldn't have had it, it would have been a much different story.
So how did parents get the news?
I believe that some people had texts.
I believe so.
Their parents. But here's the wild thing too. While this is going on, some of the people, the translators there with us, show us their phone, and it's on Facebook Live. It's already making headlines in Honduras on major news outlets.
South America.
Central and South America.
I had a friend
it's on the
in
radio.
Sweden. She saw it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got a call while I was in the
I
hospital.
didn't even think about that
It
of
was- Front
how
page
the
of the newspaper.
news in their country could trickle out and lead before you were prepared to communicate with families.
Technology,
Yeah.
man.
It's true.
Because even
Wow.
we have friends that live in the Roatan, which is, right outside of Honduras. And they knew, and they were messaging me on Facebook, is this your team? What's going on?
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was the extent of the rest of the injuries? And then I want to know just how serious the break was and recovery and all that, but what was the condition of the rest of the team?
Yeah, 2 women had fractures, one in the ankle and then one in the wrist. Like there's a lot of swelling. Somebody got a concussion and a cut on his head from the things falling in the elevator.
This could have been like utterly way more
Listen,
awful.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I just remember like riding in the ambulance with one of our teammates, and he is just like freaking out. And I literally am just like speaking scripture like over him because I'm like, you are going to be fine, you know. And I just looked at him. I said, Paul, we are living in a miracle right now. I said, because by literally what happened, there should be people dead. And we are bringing every single one of you to the hospital. And it's a miracle. And honestly, the injuries, Krystal's was the worst, but it was just fractures, bruises, like minor concussions. Like you can't deny that God wasn't with us.
Yeah.
Like it was a miracle. Like we had some people with casts. One of them had a wheelchair, and besides Krystal, who was there ministering in the hospital, let's be real, being a light. But after that, we all went and like rolled wheelchairs, carried people into prisons, into like the slums. Like we ministered, and it was incredible. So it's just that alone was a miracle of seeing God's hand.
And by the world's standards, we should have been having funerals, right? I mean, if we're honest.
Yeah.
Even in our minds, we're like, one, thank God we're not, but like, how could we not have 7 stories falling, you know? And
Does anybody know how fast the elevator got in its free fall? Like, I wonder.
I mean, I would say
Pretty fast. I mean,
Yeah.
It was
I mean,
like that
seven
because
stories.
from
It
the,
was
when
so
we heard the
fast.
scream
I mean,
to
like
the
miles
bang,
per hour.
Oh, I don't
Yeah, I
know.
had no
But
idea.
even
That's
still,
pretty
if a
far.
person just fell 7 stories,
Yeah.
not in an elevator,
Yes.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that, it's just
well, and it was
Yeah,
straight
that's a good
cement. There
point.
was
Yes,
no
there was no bounce.
there was no bounce, right?
and there were no
There's some
brakes
safety
either.
mechanisms on elevators that at least if it does, then there's something that will happen at the bottom that will give you a little spring.
None of that.
Do you remember the impact?
Yeah, absolutely.
that's gotta
I was
haunt
expecting to hear brakes because in the U.S. there's a fail-safe that like you may drop a floor or two, but your elevator's going to hold and the brakes are going to hold. It literally was like the ride. It was just like we hit bottom. I remember going up in the air and then hitting the elevator floor. And then looking over and seeing my husband just upright. He was the only one that was upright.
wow.
And I was like, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way. That man walked out of that elevator, not a scratch
Really?
on him. Nothing.
I don't see how
he was the
anybody
only
could.
one that did not have to get checked out.
He did. And that man, which we've walked a lot with them,
Yeah.
started to just pray over everybody. Here's his wife like saying, my leg is broken, I can't move. And he just starts going over everybody and praying. And I just remember stepping back and being like, who is this?
Yeah.
Like, look at God working in Dion's
Yeah.
life right now.
Yeah.
So you wake up in the emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
Take us from there.
I didn't think it was as bad. I thought when you hear someone say they broke their leg, you're like, okay, we're going to put you in a cast. And I thought we were going to continue on the mission trip. We didn't think about calling our children because I'm like, that would just unnecessarily panic them. So I said, we'll just let them know the story when we get home. And so
How old are your kids?
they're 12 and 14.
Okay.
And so I was like, surprise, mom came home with a cast.
So
But
that is what y'all did? Y'all waited?
no, it went violently wrong.
That's right, because you had to stay a long time.
I had to stay
Yeah.
10 days. So in Honduras, the orthopedic surgeon had to be called in. So I spent the first 20 plus hours just hanging out in the hospital, just waiting for surgery. My surgery wasn't scheduled till 1 o'clock the next day.
And take that time, average it. How bad was the pain from?
It was not. They gave me drugs that you can't get in the U.S. that are FDA approved. I think it was fentanyl. And so I felt nothing. I felt absolutely nothing.
Good.
But even better, one of our interpreters, gosh, so amazing. He stayed in the hospital with us. He called his wife and said, I'm not coming home tonight. I need to be with them in case they need anything. And so I hear them fighting over the couch in the next room. Of like, he's like, no, you get the couch. And my husband's like, no, you get the couch. And they're just fighting over who gets the couch. And I'm like, I don't care who gets the couch. And so I wake up the next morning and I was like, we got to call my mom. We got to let her know. And I called.
She knew nothing.
She knew nothing at this point because I know my mom and she had been on the first thing smoking down here. And I'm like, it's 2 a.m. I'm not calling her. And so I call her and I was like, hey, Mom, just to let you know, it's been an accident. I'm okay. I'll let you know when I have more information. I'm having surgery today. She said, okay. She's used to me being traveling and things. And so she wasn't concerned. And so we get ready for surgery. And then obviously I don't have any memory of that. But when I woke up, I knew I was in trouble. I woke up and every tube was attached to my body. I woke up and there are at least 10 people in my room. I had my own care team. I had an infectious disease doctor, an orthopedic, and an internalist. And I was like, wow, okay. They said my 5-hour surgery went to 11 hours and that I had broken my leg right at my hip and at my knee. So I completely lost my femur. So just gone.
The x-ray itself was insane.
Insane. Like there is maybe a little piece of bone right at my hip that's left, and the rest is rods and screws.
So it was just kind of like floating in your leg.
Mm-hmm. That's what I felt. Yeah, it was just my femur floating around. Sorry if anyone's squeamish. And I woke up and my leg is like the size of, all I can think of is like a Publix chicken wing. It is just like large and inflamed. And I have a tube on, I have oxygen on. Apparently I'd thrown a blood clot and I collapsed my lung. Like they had to give me blood transfusions. And Dion, I just remember being next to my head and he's like, you're awake. You're awake. And I was like, yeah, why wouldn't I be? He was like, and he told me everything. To me, I just went to sleep, had surgery, woke up. So that's
while you were asleep, were they worried about losing you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when my mom started calling the consulate, apparently. I didn't realize it till later on. She told me, she was like, yeah, I've called everyone to figure out like what was going on. I was calling your husband every like hour on the hour, past 5 hours he was calling. And so I'm laying there and they're like, you're just in really bad shape. You're in really bad shape. I said, okay. So they're having me do breathing exercises and I'm hearing this crinkle sound. And I was like, what is that? Turns out it was my lung inflating as I was breathing. I could feel it kind of like inflating. And so I was like, okay, well, that's one problem down. All right, Lord. And they're like, you need another surgery. I was like, for what? We need to put a filter in because if you throw another blood clot, you could die. So, okay.
Golly.
Okay. And so I'm like, what's the chances of me kind of like getting out of here? Like kind of wrapping them. And they were like, not for a couple days. I said, okay, well, that kind of ends my mission trip, so to speak. And so the next day I have surgery. And
we're going to take a quick pause because Lynn has a hard out at 12. So thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn.
All right, keep on going.
So at this point, they have me doing surgery. And I mean, I'm beyond thankful for the staff in Honduras, but when you don't speak medical Spanish, they're also not inclined to tell you what's going on with you. So like in the US, they'll be like, hey, we're going to do this procedure and this. They don't. They just start wheeling you places and moving you. And so it was kind of scary because Dion couldn't be with me when I was having these surgeries. And so after that surgery, I ended up with a port in my neck. I'm still on oxygen. And I just look a fright. And so at this point, we've made the decision that, like, we got to call the kids. We've got to. Because this is not a set you in a cast and let you go situation. Like, we're in the ICU.
And has the mission trip just been totally put on pause? Like, as the rest of the team serving?
Yeah, I mean, so that night, we got back to we didn't leave the hospital till about midnight.
Yeah.
And no one had eaten since 2 p.m. that day.
Yeah.
And so we went to one of the only places that was open, which is Denny's. And I don't know if you've ever seen the meme of the girl fighter, that is like bruised and bleeding. And she's like, I'm okay. It was a great fight. That's what it felt like when we pulled up to Denny's and people got off of the bus.
They must have thought, what is going on?
Yeah, I mean, there was 2 people in cast, one in crutches, others like, blood, scabs on the head. And I just remember this like surreal moment of sitting there in Denny's like, how did we get here? And then where do we go from here? And so we talked to our mission partner, and he kind of gave us the options of what it would look like. And he was like, obviously we're not going to the prison tomorrow. Everybody sleep, get some good rest, and then we'll reassess in the morning. And so we went back to the hotel and tried to sleep. We may have gotten in a few hours.
Maybe.
And the plan was when everyone woke up to reconvene in our room.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember us waking up that morning. We actually called my dad and then Chelsea's mom just to let them know what was going on. And after we told them, then the team ended up coming to the room. And if I'm honest with you, my hope was that they would all want to go home, because I felt so hopeless there, not being able to speak the language, not being able to do anything with her. I was like, let's just send the team home so that we can like be in control of taking care of them, making sure they get what they need, speak the same language, all of these things. And as I'm sitting there thinking that, looking at the room, as each person was kind of sharing where they were at, the Lord just told me that that's not what needs to happen. He was like, Brian, you need to release control, because if you step in and try to save all of them, then you're going to prevent them from learning how to trust me, how to lean on me, and you're only going to be showing them how to lean on you. And I was just like, okay, God, like if they want to stay, then we're going to stay. And, collectively, the team wanted to stay and continue the mission. There was one couple that decided to come back home just for personal reasons. And we stayed and planned to lead the other 5 couples that were choosing to stay.
And I just, that morning, like Joey, honestly, it was one of the most holiest moments I've ever experienced in my life. As we were sitting in that hospital room with people's casted legs propped up on coolers, like it was just a mess, like physically. And just hearing somebody say, I asked God to take me deeper this year. And if this is what it means, like to be crushed so like new oil can come out, then okay. And someone else saying, I know God called me here to serve. And this accident, like, it doesn't change God's call and what he asked me to do. And just one by one, hearing these couples and seeing their tears and like what the Holy Spirit was speaking to them, it was incredible. It's like literally you got a vision like from God of being in a gold mine while they were speaking. It was so beautiful and holy. It just, and my verse of the year is actually James 1:2-4. Consider it all joy. Mm-hmm. And I remember when the Lord gave that to me, I'm like, Lord, I'm pretty joyful. Like the joy of the Lord is my strength. Why are you giving me this verse? And I understand it was for that, because it's in the suffering. That's when we learn to persevere. That's when we mature. And we got to watch that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been in a gold mine. I don't know if you have or not. I can kind of imagine that it'd be overwhelming and really, really like just neat to be in there, right? To see it all. And I felt when people were just sharing where they were at after the tragedy just hours before, I just felt like we were in this gold mine, and the Lord was allowing me to see these nuggets that people were taking away that God was already doing in their story. And I remember the Lord saying, like, you need to share with them that we can't focus solely on the elevator. Like, it was an incident that happened. For sure, and it was awful, and it was catastrophic. It was traumatizing. But it was also a catalyst, a vehicle, if you will, in which the Lord decided to use to grow people on a deeper spiritual journey.
It's true. Yeah.
And even like you said,
I've got to be so close, your whole team.
At this point,
At this point, it's family.
You already were close because I know how mission trips work, but this mission trip especially.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No. It's like, when you said, Krystal, that my mission trip's over, even sitting here, the Lord would just like, I just felt like he impressed upon me. That's when your trip started.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because then, the people you were able to minister to through the joy of the Lord in the hospital those were people that got ministered to that wouldn't have if it didn't happen.
It's true. And then so that was the day after the incident. And that's what we told our team. We're like, it's an incident. This isn't what's going to define our trip, because if that's where our perspective is, like, we're not trusting the Lord. And so we were like, we're moving forward. And the next day we went to a national women's maximum security prison. And every place we went since that, it's like we were even more welcomed and anticipated because, like we said, it was national news.
A lot of people heard already.
Yes. And so I believe that it brought even like a greater like power and authority from the Holy Spirit, because they watched us like trust the Lord and suffer well, and it was just amazing that day in prison. I've sat in that prison so many times because this wasn't our first time in Honduras, and just watching people just humbled and physically hurt, but come alive spiritually and serve with their spouse. It was incredible. Yeah. It was different than any trip we've ever led.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How'd the kids receive the news?
So we're beyond thankful for like our Seacoast family, because the first thing we had to figure out is we had to let everyone know. And so I asked Pastor Bryan if we could keep it as generalized as possible until we could figure out how we're going to tell the kids. And so one of the things that I'm beyond thankful I started years ago when we started to travel is I would sign away like my parental rights, because if something ever happened to me, somebody needs to take care of my kids. And so the lady who had our kids, who's a dear friend, we both agreed. I was like, you have medical power of attorney, standard power of attorney, everything. And so like beyond grateful I did that now. And so I contacted her and she's like, I figured it was you. I said, yeah. And she said, well, what do you want to do? I said, we're not telling kids just yet. We've got to figure out. So we asked some people to come over to kind of be there while we were telling them. And so we FaceTimed them. And my daughter is in tears because I'm not going to hide from them. They can see all the tubes, the ports, everything. And she's just in tears. And what was just so magical is that my husband just takes the phone and just starts talking to her and like, everything's going to be okay. Mom's okay. He's crying. And meanwhile, I'm just over there like, cool, I'm here. Like, not that I wasn't emotional, but it was just seeing him just break down and like console our daughter. And our son's just like, is mom okay? And he's like, yeah. He's like, cool. I love him. He has autism, and so he compartmentalizes very well. And so he just wanted to know, was I okay? And the rest he was good with. And so from that moment on, our family, our Seacoast family, just rallied around our kids and just loved them. And it was amazing. It was also getting ready to be my daughter's 14th birthday. And I was like, I forgot her birthday. My friends were like, you were in a hospital. And they rallied and threw her 14th birthday while I was in the hospital. But yeah, it's been amazing.
We're wrapping this thing up. Thank you so much, the three of you. I do have some I's to dot and some T's to cross. I'm curious, where are you at? Well, first of all, how long did you stay in recovery from the second surgery? You had 2 surgeries, right?
I've had a total of 5 surgeries.
But in Honduras?
In Honduras, I had 2.
2. So how long did you stay?
10 days.
The full duration was 10 days. Mm-hmm. And on the way back, did you have some special accommodations in the plane, or did I just open up a box here?
You did. A lot of T's and I's.
There's a lot. It was like a choose your own adventure kind of deal. We are beyond thankful to Seacoast for the way that like everyone, Jody and the executive team made sure that we were as comfortable as possible for the trip back. And so like we got priority seating, we got priority through the airport. And, we made it back, and I have some friends who pulled some strings and were able to meet us at the gate. And then we rushed right to MUSC. And thank God we did, because the doctor looked at me and was like, "You're septic."
Oh, wow.
And so that started another 17-day journey.
17 days in MUOC.
Yeah.
Wow. And surgeries during that 17 days?
Yep. So they had to pull out all of my hardware because, unfortunately, there's a glove screwed into my hardware from my initial surgery. So I essentially...
Like a latex?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
And so my body was just fighting off the infection.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
so they had to take that out, put in some temporary hardware to try to kill the infection. And then the snowstorm hit. And then that delayed everything. And like Chelsie said, I got to tell people about the Lord. And everybody wanted to know about me. And I was like, this has nothing to do with me. This is all God. Let me tell you what God does. And during the snowstorm, I just sat there for 3 days and I got to tell doctors and nurses all about the joy of the Lord and what that meant and God, because people wanted to say it was the enemy and I knew it was God. And so I got to do that. And then I got discharged, I think it was the 28th or 29th of January. And I came home with a bag full of pills and I had an IV line in and I was in a wheelchair. And that started a whole healing journey on its own. But I spent most of January in the hospital.
Yeah. January of this year.
Yeah, January of this year.
And what is your current physical state? Are you... Will you suffer the consequences in some regard for the rest of your life, or is there permanence in this?
Yeah, so I'll permanently have hardware. So I'll have screws and a rod. I probably am susceptible to needing a hip replacement and a knee replacement future in the years, just based on the break and everything. Running was never a thing, but it's really not going to be a thing unless God decides that's what he wants for me. But I've been doing physical therapy since March. And so I've gone from being in a wheelchair to a walker to using a rollator to being able to walk without assistance. And so right now in physical therapy, we're just working on strengthening my leg. I had to be taught how to walk again. And so through physical therapy. And so that's what we're doing right now.
What a year.
It's been a year.
Gosh. And you mentioned this, but I'm serious. You will avoid elevators for the time being?
Kind of. Sometimes it's necessary. Going to physical therapy, I have to take an elevator because the stairs
is it a challenge?
Kind of. They've taught me how to walk on stairs, and so it's just now the cadence I have to work on. But for the most part, I do take the stairs. It's been really good health-wise. But there's sometimes it's unavoidable depending on where the stairs are, if they're locked or something of that sort, or how far I need to go. But I've just said that, well, Lord, if you're going to do it again, there's a reason for it, and I can't live life. I've gotten into car accidents and I still drive, and things of that sort. So I can't live life with fear, and I don't. And so I tell my story not to tell people don't go on a mission trip or don't go to Honduras or don't go in elevators. It's look at what God did. He could have did it at home, but he chose to do it in this space. And I don't know the 100% the why, but all I know is that this is not over. What he wants to do with it is not over.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys have anything that y'all wanted to interject before we close it up?
No, the one thing that the Lord revealed to me was, like I said earlier, everyone expected there to be a funeral, of someone who passed. But there was a spiritual funeral that happened because there were things in each couple and even in us that died because of what we went through, right? And there were
a gained perspective that just kind of whittled some things away.
Yeah,
that makes
through
sense.
this experience, we learned humility like we never have.
Yeah,
we learned true patience and joy. The fruits of the Spirit came alive in ways like they never have before. And in order for those fruits to come up, there were things that needed to die that were the direct opposite of those things. And when you're in a foreign country and you don't speak the language, something traumatic happens, and the only choice you have to do is to continue to press on and keep walking forward and lean on the Lord, not on your own understanding, not in your own strength, then those fruits truly develop. Because you're making choices daily for the other things to die that are not helpful.
Yeah. And you might think, oh, people don't want to go on a marriage trip anymore. But Cane Bay is taking a trip in February next year, and we're taking 9 couples, the biggest trip we've ever had. And a few of the people on the trip were on the elevator this year. And so it just goes to show that God's greater than everything, and He redeems, He heals, and we really have to reframe our perspective and the things in our life that are challenging. Yeah, they do shape us, but in God's hands, He can bring glory and beauty, but if we allow it to, go the other way in our own perspective and like in our flesh, it can destroy us. And so I'm just grateful for the things God did and His changing of all of our perspectives and the things that did die, because we're still seeing the fruit of it in our whole team's lives, in our church, in our community. It's amazing, and only Jesus.
Mm-hmm. What a testimony of faith and perseverance, God's strength, and then community as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say on behalf of Seacoast, because obviously people on staff and people who attend here are aware of this situation. I mean, very proud of you and just how you've walked this through. I'm going to get all choked up because I'm a cry person, and you guys as well. I mean, what a thing that you guys had to walk through as leaders, and just what y'all have gained through it. So it was an honor to be able to share this on the podcast. So thank y'all 3.
And I'm still going on mission trips. Still love them. If God wants me to go, I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
Even back to Honduras.
Nothing stopping
Especially back to
Krystal.
Honduras.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely not.
Awesome.
You've been watching Seacoast Church's Things You Won't Hear on Sunday podcast. You can now become a patron of this podcast and receive exclusive content. Your support goes towards Seacoast ministry efforts and local presence. Also, be sure to leave us a review and subscribe to this podcast so that you get these episodes as soon as they're released. All of this information can be found in the show notes. Thanks for watching.